So for most of us, studying sucks, and I'm no different. If I study for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, my brain's completely fried, and I just want to go shoot some zombies on Call of Duty. So in this video, I want to talk about how recently I've been able to study loads, and I've really been learning a lot. I study electrical engineering at university, and it's tough, learning about diodes, transistors. And although I'm really enjoying studying, it is still very painful to sit down for long periods of time and study, especially since here in the UK, we've been in lockdown now for over a month, and we'll have at minimum another month left of lockdown. So all the days just become one big blur. So with that being said, I want to talk about how I motivate myself to study during this mad time. So this past month, I've been studying about 5 hours a day whilst having a day off on weekends. And for those of you that don't know, I actually also work full time as well. So this last week just gone, I did 40 hours of work. So yeah, I'm managing to cram in quite a lot. So for those of you like me that are busy and you just want to get to the crux of the video, I'd give it to you here. I basically pay myself for every 15 minutes of study, and then I ensure that I spend that money, all of it, as a reward for myself. And that's it. That's how I motivate myself to study. So let's go in a bit deeper and talk about it. I just want to make a point now. Obviously, this video is on how I motivate myself. Your motivations are going to be very different to mine, but you can still apply whatever it is that motivates and excites you to this method that I use, right? Let's talk about what motivates me. Firstly, I love building things, projects, computers. I like building stuff, love it. Always have done since I was a kid. And yeah, being 29 years old now, I still love it. I also love technology, watches, iPads, all that. Love it all. Thirdly, this is a funny one. I love cheap, rubbish food, pizzas in particular. So yeah, get me a pizza if you want to get me a gift. And fourthly, probably most importantly, and probably I'm guessing if you're an electrical engineer, then you're probably the same. Coffee. I absolutely love coffee. So those four things I want to tie into my studying such that I can make studying more enjoyable, because then it's based around those four things, right? So I actually have a shopping list on Amazon, which is, I call it my rewards list. And so I'm constantly updating it. And as I pay myself for those 15 minutes of study, then I purchase those things on that shopping list. So let's just quickly run through my shopping list together. And here you go. So I've got a curved monitor, which I really want. £350 on a monitor. It's going to hurt, but yeah, that's something that I'm after. Got some LED strips, because who doesn't need some lighting? Again, projects wise, got a Raspberry Pi touchscreen, another touchscreen monitor, microscope, batteries, trying to learn about that, solar powers, power supplies. Who doesn't need power supplies? So I've got a Wi-Fi card, which I do actually need to get, some lighting because I need more lighting. Again, who doesn't need some more Arduinos? I need more Arduinos, external hard drive, and I got to upgrade the battery on my Dell XPS laptop. So that's the current shopping list right now. It's not, I mean, this may or may not be exciting for you. To me, this is quite exciting. Yeah. And actually, let me just quickly show you my recent orders as well. I purchased a few SSDs for some projects that I'm working on. I'm going to upgrade my Pi Mac that I've got. I've purchased some RAM for a Mac that I want to upgrade. I've also got SSD, which I'm using in my new PC build. Another SSD that I'm using for my PC build, one that I bought and then returned. Got some RAM for my next PC build. Paper clips for my 3D printer. And then just quickly jump over to eBay. I also bought this graphics card and this motherboard and CPU combo, Ryzen 5 3600X. So yeah, these are the things that I've recently bought with my rewards money. And as you can see, they're not cheap stuff. They add up to a fair bit, but it's exciting. So once I've got my rewards list in mind, which I keep in mind. So for example, I'm quite excited about the monitor, quite excited about the LED lighting for now. So I keep that in mind, and then I start a 15-minute timer on my Fitbit, which is what I'll use my watch. Start the timer on my watch, and then I pay myself £5 for every single 15 minutes of uninterrupted study. Now, I don't actually move any money around my bank account or anything like that. I just tally it up in my Notion app. So I'll come and show you over here. And so literally my Notion app, I just keep an amount here, which I just update. So for every 15 minutes of study, I just update 215, 220, etc. And then when I spend the money, I then reduce it down, to 205, 200, etc. So the money pot, which, for example, now £215, that gets spent on McDonald's, that gets spent on pizzas, that gets spent on my Amazon shopping list. Whatever I feel like just treating myself to, which, for example, last night at 4 a.m., it was a fish fillet meal with a large Fanta. I order it on Uber Eats, and then I deduct that from my shopping list. And to be honest, it really, for me anyways, proper motivates me to carry on studying, So as I showed you, in terms of my new PC build, which I'm building, that in total it cost me £620 for all the parts for my PC. So that's 124 15-minute study sessions, or 31 hours of studying. So I'm super proud of the fact that I managed to sit down and study for 31 hours. It took me about 10 days to do that, right? Including my 2 days off that I have on the weekend, or 1 day off each weekend. So I'm super excited to build my new PC, for one. And two, I'm super excited for what I learned during those 31 hours of studying. I learned a whole bunch about diodes and transistors during that time. So I just want to make a small point about the money and how much money you pay yourself. If £5 per 50 minutes of study sounds like a lot of money to you, where you're like, that's ridiculous, I couldn't pay myself that. How about £2 or £1? You know, if you're, the amount is going to be based upon your financial situation. So for me, I work full time. So if I was to pay myself £2 per 50 minutes, you know, that's £8 an hour. That doesn't excite me at all. I haven't been on £8 an hour, you know, at least for over, 10, 11 years. But likewise, you know, if you're on the other end of the scale whereby £5 doesn't tickle your fancy at all, then, you know, how about £10, £15, £20 per 15 minutes? You know, it's going to be, got nothing to do with, you know, I don't know, like, if you're a good person or not, pay yourself a high amount. It just has to do with where you are financially. If you're wealthy, then, you know, you might want to pay yourself £50 per 15 minutes of studying. If you're not wealthy, then, you know, maybe you pay yourself with £1, or maybe you don't pay yourself at all. Maybe you just treat yourself to, I don't know, 5 minutes of gaming. Me personally, I tried the gaming side of things, and what happened was I would say, okay, after 15 minutes of studying, I'll play for 5 minutes. So after an hour, I'll play for half an hour, and then I just end up playing for 5 hours and just don't even bother studying again. So the gaming stuff, the reward away from studying doesn't help me. But when I set a monetary value, so £5 per study session, I can see that, for example, usually I can do an hour and a half, 2 hours straight without any breaks. And yeah, so tailor it to you. But for me, I definitely couldn't afford to pay myself £10 or £20 per 15 minutes of studying. So £5 that sweet spot for me, whereby it excites me because, you know, making £20 an hour to spend on junk, you know, like a new battery pack, or, you know, a fish fillet meal from McDonald's, that's exciting for me. And honestly, that's really it. That's how I motivate myself to study. So I just want to make two quick additional points as well, which is that when I do sit down to study, even though I am paying myself, it is still difficult. And two things that I found to be a big help, especially for me because I'm quite sleep deprived, is I've got a fan on always, regardless to how hot it is or cold it is. And if I'm cold, I just put on a jumper, and if I'm hot, then obviously the fan helps anyway. So I just find that having that breeze on my face constantly keeps me awake and keeps me studying. Whilst when I have the fan off, like I've had it off this whole time whilst recording this video, and my eyes are, I want to go to sleep. So I always keep the fan on me all the time. And number two, I have a distraction pad right next to me, so that when I'm studying, just inevitably things come into my mind. So on my distraction pad right now, I've got USB hub, I've got Arduino button, I've got curve monitor, I've got Airbnb. So these are all things that have come into my mind whilst I was listening to my lecture talk about diodes, and I've gone, okay, I'd like to book an Airbnb. When can I do that? You know, and then I just jot it down on my distraction pad. And then once I finish with that study session, I can then go and, for example, take half an hour looking up the rules as to when I can book an Airbnb. And that's it. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, leave a like. I'd appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. And I shall see you guys in the next one. Take care and study hard.